Hello and welcome. You are watching the fourth episode of 90 Minutes to Close the Loop. I'm John-Paul Judson, your host, and delighted to continue our exploration of the glass collection and recycling value chain. Today, our main topic is looking at how to improve glass collection in big cities, and we'll also have the announcement of the latest glass recycling rates. So make sure you stay till the end of the 90 minutes. Throughout this episode, we are also live tweeting using the hashtag 90minutesCGL. All the tweets using this hashtag will be displayed in the live stream so that you are part of the conversation. And of course, as usual, we have our Slido tool where you can raise your questions to speakers, vote for your favorite questions, and respond to polls. In fact, we have a live poll now asking you which city you're joining us from today. And we can see that Brussels is there in the center, but people are also joining us from Dublin, Paris, London, Firenze, Glasgow, Bonn, Montpellier, Panama as well. So welcome to all of you. Really great to have you with us. I'm here in Brussels myself, sunny Brussels. But there are many people from around the world and around Europe. We had, in fact, over 160 registrations for today's episode. And as usual, Portugal comes out on top, followed closely by France, UK, Belgium. And we also have participants from around the world. So welcome to those of you joining us from Argentina, Panama, Mexico, Chile, also the United States of America. Today is Thanksgiving, so if you're joining us from there, thanks to you. Now, wherever you're located, we know that if we get it right in cities, we can take a big step towards closing the glass loop. And today's topic is part of a broader effort by the Close the Glass Loop program to engage with municipalities and cities on their circular economy and waste management action plans, to help cities define ways of better organizing separate glass collection systems and developing measures that will ensure that no glass is left in residual waste. How can this be done? Well, let's hear it from our speakers today as the clock is ticking. Now, before going into the operational aspects linked to the glass waste fraction in cities, we need to recognize that big cities are like small states and face multiple challenges. Our keynote speaker today brings a systems perspective, having worked with several cities on a roadmap for circular urban resource management developed in the context of the urban agenda for the EU. And he will be sharing his insights on how to engage with cities to better understand material flows and optimize the circular economy. So it's my pleasure to introduce Gerko Brouwer, founder and owner of Circulaire Zaken. He is joining us from the Netherlands. Gerko, great to have you with us and welcome. So please, the floor is yours. You can hit the unmute button and go straight into your presentation.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And indeed, I've been working with the urban agenda on circular economy. One of the actions developed in that cooperation was a roadmap for circular urban resource efficiency. Many cities are struggling with their resource efficiency. So what we did was find out what cities already are experienced in the field, what did they do, what did they learn, and what can we contribute based on their experience for other and translate that into a roadmap, into a guide for other cities to develop their own resource efficiency plan based on circular principles. So a short presentation on why did we choose for a roadmap, what is the structure of the roadmap, what are the steps of the roadmap, and what is the usability of it. So first, why a roadmap? This is more like a general overview of what happens in the larger cities. 70% of the citizens live in big cities in the EU. 70% of the jobs are in the cities. The same applies for the GDP, the resources and the energy use, and even more so with regards to the emissions of climate emissions, CO2, for instance. So there is a need for resource efficiency, because a lot of resources go in and out and through the cities. So a healthy city could be equalized with a healthy planet. If 70% of the resources go through the cities, there is a lot of impact and a gain to be accessed by involving the cities in resource management. And glass, of course, being one of the resources. So what is the structure of the roadmap? We divided it in 3 pillars. First, the city metabolism. So what is going on in the cities with regards to the resources? Then develop the pillar 2, where you can develop brokerage activities. So how can you change the linear flows into circular flows? The pillar 3 is about monitoring. Do your projects have effect? And the 4th pillar is transition management. So evaluate not only if your projects are effective, but also what do they contribute to your resource efficiency. So those are the main, that's the main structure. And all the different pillars have 3 separate items. 1 is about the steps in the pillars. 2 are the accompanying considerations you have to take into account, and a little bit of theoretical background with regards to the considerations. So the first step is getting an insight in the city's metabolism. So what is going into the cities, what is going out, what happens into the cities with all the different reflows that you can identify. So the first step would be familiarize the work field. How familiar are your employees with circular economy? How familiar are they with the principles of circular economy? So you have to define what kind of definitions. There are more than 100 definitions of circular economy. So how do you want to define them? What do you want to use? What is the scope of this project for you as a city? What kind of principles do you want to use? Are there already existing policies present or goals being set? Targets and indicators, are they already done or not? Or which one would you like to use? So you have to orientate yourself a little bit before starting off. The second step would then be to, just skipped one, to have a project team that is working on getting the picture with regards to the resource management of your city. So you have to define who you want to get into the project. What kind of expertise do you need? What kind of capacities, perhaps even external capacity needed? What kind of domains do you want to involve? Is it just waste management, or is it also environmental permitting, for instance, or housing, or spatial planning? And are these people available in order to join this project? And it could be rather extensive, so yeah, there is a lot of capacity required. Then, after the project team has been developed, you define the core and the scope of your project. What kind of definitions, the principle and the scope, and finalize those so you know what you are working on. First idea was just to get familiarized with these, get a direction, and now you have to finalize them and make sure that you know what you are doing. And then you define the city characteristics. Are you a rural city, for instance, or an industrial one, or is there a lot of transportation going on? Well, stuff like that you have to take into account because it has an impact on the resources that you use as a city. Then you want to define the aim of the project, the involvement of stakeholders, for instance, external stakeholders, because you have a lot of these stakeholders are involved in these resource flows. They own some of those resource flows. For instance, building companies, construction companies, housing owners, or companies who are selling equipment for all sorts, computers, for instance. So a lot of companies are involved in the resource flows, and they can do something to change the resource flows. So you have to determine whether you want to use them or not. And then you have to get insights of these resource flows. What kind of flows do you have? It's like construction materials, concrete, stones, bricks, iron, water, all kinds, clothing, all kinds of materials go in and out. And something happens inside your city. So do you want to know what is going on in your city, who is involved in these streams, and who can help you address these streams. That's the general idea. And of course, this can also be done for one resource flow, glass, for instance. Then you need to find out, okay, what exactly do I want to know? The masses of the stream, the impact of these different streams. Do I only want to know these impacts for my city, or do I also want to get into the details with regards to where are the flows originated from? Coffee, for instance, doesn't grow in Europe. It grows in Africa or in North America. So do you want to involve the impact over there as well? How long does a resource go around in your city? So the retention rate, construction materials stay put for like 25 to 50 years. But for instance, computers only have a retention rate of like maximum 5 years, for instance. So all those kinds of things you have to take into account to get an insight on the flows. What are the characteristics of the flows, the impact of the flows, and how do you want to deal with them? Also very important, what is the circular potential of certain flows? And are there already existing activities going on? Because they can use you in the second pillar in order to define projects to change your resource flows. So this is about the considerations with regards to the selection of the flows. Then if you have finalized your selection, you know what is important for your city and you want to know which flows you want to address. For instance, based on the economic value or on the circular value that you could achieve when you are addressing these flows, then you want to specify, okay, how am I going to change these flows from linear to circular? What are the stakeholders that are involved? Are they intrinsically motivated to help me and help the city change these the flows? What can they do? Are they even also available in putting money in the projects, for instance? Do they take care? Do they take responsibility for achieving a goal? Then with regards to the priority flows and the change, you can also use the multi-R strategy to develop all kinds of different projects. The repair, the reuse kind of activities. And it will help you define the kind of projects that you want to develop. So per flow, per priority flow, you can have a brainstorm with all the partners and find out what kind of projects could help you change your flows. That will result in some promising activities. And these promising activities can be adapted. Those are our strategies, of course, all familiar to you, I can imagine. The repair, reuse, reduce strategies, for instance, which can help you define your projects. So if you've done that and you have promising activities, promising projects going on, then it's a case of finding out what could the impact be of these projects. Am I able to predict for instance, the qualitative impact, the change in the resource flows? If not, if the data is insufficient, for instance, with regards to the first pillar, you can also choose to have a more qualitative impact discussion. Certain projects will always encounter challenges, barriers. So how do you want to overcome these barriers? Perhaps there are also drivers present, enablers you can use. And what kind of tools do you want to use in order to overcome the barriers or to enhance the drivers? And with that in mind, you can develop an implementation program with smart projects. So you know what kind of projects you want to execute, and then you have to make them smart. Who is involved? What is my actual target? What kind of tools do I use? Communication, legislation, subsidies, for instance. What kind of tools do I use? Who is involved? Who is putting money in there? When do I want to have achieve the targets that I have been setting? If that implementation program has been developed, then all partners need to arrange for approval, so they can also all be involved, external and internal partners be involved in the execution of the program. Yep. Then, of course, when you are executing all the pilots and all the projects, you need to monitor the execution of it. And for that, it's good to have some indicators present. There is a lot of discussion going on also in the European Union with regards to what kind of indicators can be used. For this project, we say, okay, we have some 3-level indicators, policy indicators. And what kind of policy execution do we have? What kind of targets have been set? Do we reach those indicators within the budget? For instance, you can develop certain KPIs for that. The project execution, of course, on a project level, you have a smart project, so you have some indicators there already, so you can monitor based on that kind of data how your project execution is going on and if you are on track. And then, of course, you have your output, your outcome indicators on a metabolism level. So what kind of reduction does your project realize, for instance, on CO2 level reduction, or on the use of virgin materials, or on the use of rare earth metals, for instance? Or perhaps you can see a reduction in the amount of kilograms of waste, or for instance, the kilograms or tons of glass per capita in your city. So there are a lot of indicators. You have 3 levels of indicators and a lot of indicators that you can use. And you will probably have already some in your economic policies, for instance, or in your mobility policies. So it's also very important to find out what you already have that can also be used in case of resource management. Am I going too fast? Wait. Yeah, okay. And afterwards, of course, you do the evaluation and you're trying to find out, okay, based on the indicators, how did my projects go? Was I on track? Do we achieve the results with the project that we wanted? But also find out what was the contribution of the project to the change in my circularity, in my resource efficiency. And based on that, you can steer in your next cycle the new projects that you want to develop, because being circular in 2050, for instance, cannot be achieved in one cycle of 5 years, for instance. And the aim of this resource management plan could be a cycle of 4 years, for instance. So after determining what the contribution of this cycle of your resource plan was, then you can determine, okay, what kind of new projects do I want for the new cycle? And that's something that can be related to transition management. On the left side, you see the current economy and what is going on at the moment in, let's say, phase 4. In phase 1 is an optimization of the current economy. And on the lower side, you see experimentation. That's the startup of the new on the circular economy. So above is the linear economy, down is the circular economy. And circular economy starts with experimenting. So slowly, building on the experiments, you accelerate in your circular economy. More projects will be executed, more successes will be generated, and the circular economy will increase in speed and people involved and in resources involved. At the same time, the linear economy will slowly drop down in its activity. And in phase 3, between phase 3 and phase 4, you will see more like a chaos point where both will meet and transition will actually take place, and then upwards into the circular economy. So you can place your projects into one of these phases and know where to score these projects and where you are in reaching out for your circular economy and in your resource efficiency. So, conclusions. It is a practical instrument. It can be adjusted based on the needs and requirements of an individual city. So it's adaptable to the situation and the wishes of an individual city. It is, in my thoughts, also very applicable for companies, for instance, or perhaps even for a specific waste stream, like glass, for instance. At the moment, we are building on a consortium where we want to test a roadmap with a certain amount of cities. So if you're interested, please let me know. I can take you in and I can elaborate a little bit more. Thank you for your attention and for making this presentation possible.
Thanks to you, Gerko, for that overview. I think it helps us imagine that at the level of the city, it's a discussion that goes way beyond the glass fraction, whereas in the glass collection and recycling chain, we're mostly focused on the glass fraction, obviously. If you had one recommendation to the glass collection and recycling value chain when speaking to a city, and in order to try and increase and improve glass collection, what would that be? Would it be rather on a monitoring level or rather on a value proposition level?
I would say on a value proposition. Glass is, of course, a resource that is good recyclable. So there is already some value in there. I'm not sure whether you can recycle it endlessly or like 7 times, like for instance with paper, but I would guess a value proposition, and perhaps also trying to find partners with the same interest who can help you even increase your levels of reuse.
Yeah, and endless recycling is definitely one of the value propositions of glass. So, okay, so a message to the cities: we need to work on this value together. Okay, thanks so much, Gerko, for having shared with us your insights, and the presentation will also be made available on the Close the Glass Loop website. So, without further ado, we go straight into our panel debate. And for our panel debate, we will be going deep diving into different contexts, different city contexts, different country contexts. I am joined by Lydia Navarro Velasco. She is Deputy Director of Waste Collection at the Madrid City Council. Hello, Lydia. Joze Gregoric. He is Project Manager at VOKA SNAGA, the public waste management company operating in Ljubljana, Slovenia. Welcome, Joze. And I am joined by Ulrich Ix. He is head of the glass trading department at Duales System Deutschland, DSD, the German EPR scheme. And he is also the president of Verweer, the European Glass Recyclers Federation. So welcome, Uli, and thanks for joining. Thanks to all of you. So in order to kickstart this session, I think it's important that we go into each context so that you, the audience, get a better understanding of what we're talking about, practically speaking, in Madrid, in Ljubljana, and in Germany. In the meantime, we will be launching a Slido poll asking you what you think are your top challenges to collect glass in big cities, and we'll get back to that later. But let's first go to Madrid, Lydia. And can you please tell us a little bit about glass collection in Madrid?
Thank you. Thank you, Jean-Paul, for the invitation. And thank you all for the attendance, for stay there. We all agree that waste management and resource efficiency is one of the challenges of our time, and cities have an important role to play there. Madrid is the biggest city in Spain. We have 3.2 million inhabitants and a generation of 1.2 million of tons every year. We live in a complex city, very diverse, urbanistic and socioeconomic point of view. Our challenges are different in each area because we have different problems in different districts. So in global terms, the last few years have been very positive in waste management and waste separation. We have increased a lot the amount of recyclable waste that is collected. In 2016, only 14% of the waste was presented on recyclable fractions, and now we have increased this amount to 42%. We are far away from the goals of the European Union, but we think we are working on the right direction. We have a turning point in 2017 when we started collecting organic waste. The challenge.
I think Lydia had a slight connection problem. Yeah, I think we're back. I think we're back.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Okay, the challenge of our municipality are global for all the fractions. We think we can't speak only about glass. We have to speak about all the fractions because one of them has an effect on the others. So we have made a big effort in the last few years to advance in infrastructure, in transport, in treatment, and in recovery of domestic and commercial waste. All our vehicles are electric or eco. Most of them are eco. We have increased the rates of containers that we have for paper and cardboard and glass to one container for 450 inhabitants. And our frequency, I think they are very high. We collect non-recyclable and organic waste every day. And packaging, plastic and metal packaging, we collect 4 times per week, and glass and paper on demand. We have invested also in drop-off points, and we have to make a very important effort in information and awareness of the population. And we try to answer all the suggestions and complaints that we receive very, very fast, so the citizens can feel the system, the waste collection system as an efficient service, so they would be more motivated to collaborate with it. As the main challenge that we face, first, we as all municipalities, as all cities and countries, we have to avoid waste. Is the main challenge for us, I think, and for all of us. We have to work on reduction of waste generation. And the second challenge will be motivating non-recyclers to separate at home and recycle. There are several causes that make people not to be recycle or separate at home. Sometimes it's lack of information, sometimes it's lack of commitment with the environment, or refuse or rejection to do so. But we have to act in all these causes and to try to improve the separation at home and in the commerce. We have to offer an excellent service. Containers, which is the interaction with the citizen, must be accessible for all people, must be closed, must be clean and operational every time. So we have to work and avoid the difficulties that people may find or may present as an excuse to avoid recycling. And finally, our last challenge is to optimize the service with the technology. These services are very expensive, and we have to moderate the cost by using technology, being more efficient, trying to reduce cost, and also informing people and increasing transparency and open government. Talking about glass, and I am finished in this part, you can see that we have increased every year the amount of glass that we collect, and we have 2 points of inflection, which are the start of collecting organic waste, who has boosted all the other fractions. And also we have started a Oreca collection door-to-door system in 2017. So that would be another point when the amount of collection of glass has been improved quite a lot.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear that collecting certain waste fractions has an effect also on the others. In this case, also on glass. So maybe that's something we can get back to. Thanks Lydia, for giving us a perspective on Madrid. Let's travel then to Ljubljana. Joze, can you tell us a little bit about how Ljubljana addresses the glass waste fraction?
Yes. So greeting from Ljubljana. I will be briefly introduce how we collected municipal waste in the Ljubljana and surrounding area. Yeah. So in the city of Ljubljana, our companies collect all municipal waste in this area. So we covered city of Ljubljana and 10 smaller municipalities in surrounding. And we covered a little bit more than 400,000 inhabitants. So we are already starting with separate collection packaging in 2004, and improve. And in 2006 we start separate collection organic waste step by step. We are not in all area, of course. And in 2014, we actually introduced also door-to-door collection system also for packaging and paper. So right now we have the system. So to door-to-door collection for almost in all area, not in suburban area, but in almost all area we collect separately. So the packaging, the residual waste, that's we separate collection in all area. Also, we separate collection in all area the organic waste, but for door-to-door. I'm talking now about door-to-door, and the separate collection paper, just let's say in the city of Ljubljana. And we also have introduced in this system these ecological sites where we separate collected this glass packaging, of course. And right now we have 2,700 ecological sites in our area where we collect. This it comes approximately 150 per one container, inhabitants per one ecological site. We're also running 9 collection centers, so that each citizens can bring all municipal waste if they want, including hazardous waste, bulky waste, VOE equipment, packaging, of course, trees, green waste, and so on and so on. We also collect bulky waste on order, so the citizens can order us that they have the bulky waste, and we call them bags that you need to prepare this bulky waste in front of your house or in front of this multi-layer building in this day, and we come and bring bulky waste away. And we also collect the hazardous waste in the pre-scheduled locations. This is, let's say, briefly how we collect municipal waste in Ljubljana. Of course, in some city center, in this, let's say, the area of the city center, we collect municipal waste, which the system with the underground containers. We also collect these all 5 fractions. It's not door-to-door collection, of course, because a lot of some citizens they live around they use these spots. Right now we have installed 72 underground units, and in each unit we have approximately 6 underground containers. And we are still in running because we don't cover all of our area we want to cover with underground containers. And the small businesses and restaurants, we also collect from them the glass also the paper, the packaging, and the glass packaging. We collect in the bags. Instead, let's say for the glass, we use it 60 liters bag, and the bars can order the bags from us. And each morning they need to put the bags in front of his spots, and we take away this packaging 7 days a week. So something about the result. Like you can see, we start with separate collection 2004, and right now our rate for separate collected rate is 69.5% in 2012. I hope that we increase a little bit this year. It's not go so fast like years before, that's for sure. We actually collect a little bit less than 40,000 tons of residual waste. Yeah, last, I don't know, 6-7 years, we have the equal amount of residual waste. So that means that last 5-6 years, the amount of all municipal waste is increased, of course. Yeah. So on this table, you can see that we collect 17 kilo per inhabitant per year's glass packaging. This something is maybe it's good to know. So this is everything from me so far. So
yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joze. And maybe this is the underground containers is maybe something it would be interesting to hear from the others as well later in the discussion. I know several cities have tried this system. Thank you. So let's now go to Germany, the most populated country in the European Union. So Uli, your task is to give us a kind of a broad overview in very short time about glass collection in Germany.
Thank you very much, Jean-Paul, and good afternoon to everybody. You know, we are in charge of the collection all over Germany. So I choose 4 big cities: Berlin, Hamburg, Munich, and Cologne. And you see in the blue line, Germany, on the right, that we collect in average 22.9 kilogram per inhabitant and year. That means that we still find 5 to 6 kilogram of glass in the household waste. And we are looking for another 400,000 tons to achieve the 90% recycling rate. 400,000 tons, that's a lot. You see that the cities are below the average, Berlin with 18.4 and so on. And yeah, what is the reason for it? The lowest line, you see the city of Essen. Can you please go to the next slide? So we made a little test, a little survey in this area, which is in the Ruhr district. And you see the green line, that's the motorway. The motorway splits Essen into 2 parts. Into the south, let me say, where the rich people live, and into the south, where the people with the lower salary are living. And we wanted to know, is their behavior different? In the city of Essen, you have a bottle bank collection in 3 colors, and it's very often in combination with other containers, with paper and textile. And you can see that this combination very often leads to a litter pollution, that people throw everything into everything, and it's a commingled collection, let me say it this way. So what did we do? We went into there is a big retailer. I called it X here. It's a big one, everybody knows. And we went into the shops, into the south and into the north, 19 altogether. And we looked to the products and found that the products are equivalent. That means first we thought there are different products in the shelves, but they are absolutely the same. And it has been confirmed by the shop managers as well. And about 15 to 20% of the goods are packed into glass, wine, beer, spirits, all this we all know. But the goods in glass are upmarket. That means the prices are higher. And that is the reason why the people in the north just don't buy it. They won't buy more in Tetra Pak, in plastic and so on. Glass packaging is too expensive if you can have the same products or similar products in other materials. So what did we then? Then we went into the incineration plant where the household waste of both areas come in. And we found that in the north, in the household waste of the north, there's slightly more glass than in the south. And I said already, the people don't buy it. If you look at it in the south, you find more glass, let me say, from a higher quality. That means from cosmetic and these things we all use in the bathroom. But now you could say, okay, let's take the household waste and try to get the glass out of the household waste. You can forget about it because the material is totally polluted with injuries by other material is gluing or sticking to the glass. It's not possible to recycle it. We need much more public relation, and we have to put the bottle banks to the right places. And that is just a sentence, but a very important sentence to us. That means, for example, we need a much more clever and sophisticated way of collection. Human beings usually are lazy. They want to have it convenient, and therefore we have to relocate the bottle banks. We have to place them at roads where everybody goes by day, in the morning, in the evening when he goes to work or comes back, goes for shopping. And it makes no sense to place these bottle banks in the middle of nowhere where nobody goes usually. There has been a survey, an experiment in the Netherlands some years ago. They chose a small village, and there they relocated the bottle banks to the right places as I described. And at the end, with less bottle banks, they had more glass in the containers. So it makes sense to make it really clever. And therefore, for example, you can place bottle banks on supermarket parkings, on fuel stations, and at the same way you achieve a certain customer loyalty. That means once you have the customer in your yard as a retailer, they buy other products as well. So this should be the way how we can get more glass. And it takes some time. You can combine bottle banks with other materials. For example, you can collect wet batteries with the bottle bank, not in the same bottle bank, but in the separate bottle bank next to it, so that people come with their batteries or the small electrical devices, whatever it is, to make it more interesting to get there. You can combine it with advertising pillars, collection for. You can finance it with this combination, and of course we have to have clean bottle banks. We have to have a noise protection to prevent the noise. All these things we have to do, but the way we do it today, I don't see that we get all the glass we need just by public relations. We have to do much more.
Okay, You raise a lot of issues there, the socioeconomic conditions, the consumption patterns, also where to place bottle banks more than quantity. It can also be quality, and that raises also issues of responsibility. So who has the responsibility of placing bottle banks where? And I think it'll be interesting now to go a little bit deeper into some of the challenges specifically that big cities face in this, because we all seem to recognize that that's where we have some of the bigger losses on collection. So if we can bring up the Slido poll just to see a little bit where the audience says that the main challenges lie. So what they're talking about in the audience is difficult access to certain urban areas within cities. So how to manage the waste collection in those areas, and the efficiency of urban waste management systems as being the two greatest challenges. And then you have uncivil behavior, lack of adapted collection points for vertical housing, lack of space within households, and overflowing collection points, which is probably also linked to efficiency of urban waste management systems. So these are some of the issues that are coming up from the audience. Lydia, do you recognize some of these challenges in Madrid? What do you see as being your top challenges on glass collection specifically? And a quick unmute, Lydia. Yeah. I
am sorry because I always forget. Yes, I think we all have the same or similar problems with collection or glass collection. Glass is a well-known material. I know people know how to separate it. It has been a lot of time that it has been recycled in Madrid since 1983. We have containers of glass. So I think it's not a doubt that people has when they don't separate glass. The main problem perhaps has appeared before I think is the lack of consciousness of people in most of cases. So we have to work on that with campaigns, I think, of awareness. And I think we have to prevent the bad use of the waste system with sanctions also. So we have to play both roles from municipalities. But nevertheless, the amount of glass in Madrid has increased a lot in the last 10 years. We have increased 30%. So I think it's a well-known material. I think people know how to spare it, and the system has room to get the objectives, but we are working on the right way. You talk about the uncivil behavior, but maybe in big cities, it's not so much that people want to be uncivil, but maybe it is just more challenging to, for instance, sort at home, empty packaging, there's less space. Joze, in Ljubljana, would you make that same assessment that it's mostly an issue of uncivil behavior, or do you think that's very much linked to the fact that people are living in big cities?
Yeah. I think that it's really important, like what Ulrich said before, so that we have the containers in the right places. This is something which is really important. We are trying to reorganize also our system, and we constantly reorganize our system, because when we saw that in some, let's say, place, let's say that people don't use this container, this is first stuff, or they don't use it in the proper way, so they have a lot of other stuff put it inside. Then we actually try to move this container a little bit around to this area and looking forward what's happened. I think that this is something for our experience for the past 15-20 years. When we start to separate collected waste, we really find out that we don't have enough place in the some city center for all these bins we needed for separate to collected. Because if you want to go door-to-door collection with 5 different fractions, 4 to 5 different fractions, in some city centers, of course, they don't have enough place. No multi-layer bins, not even in the public space. So the municipality actually decided that we started this system for underground containers. And I think that this was being the good decision from the cities, because even that we were really hard to find the location for underground containers because we have a lot of problems with these pipes, electricity, and so on to find enough space to put it underground. Now, when it's in the running, we find out that citizens use it. Not everybody, because every time we also put it some near these underground containers, just to admit this. But actually, we see that the purity, let's say, for the glass, it's a little bit higher in these underground containers than in these 1.5 cubic meters containers we use it for glass collection, let's say in these multi-apartment buildings. The purity is better And like they mentioned, like Lydia says before, the communication with the citizens, constantly awareness campaign, they need to be done because the citizens they need to know that yes, it's obligation for them to separate collection, but they need to know why they separate, why they separated waste.
Okay, so really working on these two levels. On the one hand, the communication, the awareness raising, and at the same time making the collection as convenient as possible and oriented towards the most purity in the end, like properly separately collected.
Yes.
But that's a big competition for space then in cities. And Uli, you mentioned that in Germany you have the containers split into 3 colors. I mean, that must take up a fair amount of space on the streets. Do you feel that there's more and more competition for that space in order to organize the separate collection in Germany, in the big cities? And a quick unmute, Uli. Yeah.
Of course, for example, the city of Berlin, where we have glass containers in the backyards of the big houses and big areas, the quality, and that's very important. We may not forget the quality, not only collect, we have to collect the good quality. The quality is very bad, and when you force the municipality to find new places for containers, it's almost impossible. But as I said already, if we do it clever and sophisticated, we will have success, I'm pretty sure. And in addition, we have to look at the products itself. Just one example. We have more and more single households where people live on their own. And when you look to the products, the volume of products in the glass packaging is that big that one single person cannot eat it before the best before date. That means they throw it away, including the content. All these things lead to big problems in the recycling, in the loop. And we always have to look at, as I said already, volume and quality.
Yeah. And it also opens up a question, this placing of the containers and the collection points in terms of responsibility. So Lydia, for instance, in Madrid, who is responsible for organizing the collection system, for choosing where you will place different collection points? What kind of collection system are you going to put in place? How does that work in Madrid?
In Madrid, is the municipality who chooses the system and who implements the containers. So we have different kind of containers because we have different kind of urbanistic limits. In some areas we have household containers, and in other areas we have big containers in the street. But it's the municipality who selects and who has a service of inspection, who decides the best place to put the containers.
And is there, if I may, a battle between different departments within Madrid City Council to say, well, we need to use this space, I don't know, for parking bicycles, and someone else wants to do something else with this public space? And is it a battle?
It is a battle, yes, absolutely, yes. And citizens, sometimes they don't want to have the container in front of their house. So I think the problem is not just the loss of parking place and other services fight, but also that having a container in front of your door, sometimes it generates some kind of smell or some kind of noise that people don't want to have.
Yeah, and so the point about the cleanliness around the bottle banks has been made also in the audience. In Ljubljana, how is that organized? Who is responsible for placing the different containers? For instance, who chose the underground system?
So the charge is the municipality, of course, department for leading this waste management system. But we actually collaborate together with our company because the city of Ljubljana owns our company. He's the 85% of owner, and the rest is the owner of another municipality. So we are actually heat. And actually, when we try to find out the new location for underground containers, so our company suggests the locations. Yeah, the best location is possible for the citizens, for the system, for the concept, and the city departments, different departments, approve this location or not. Yeah? So we collaborate together to find out the best solution, because the perfect solution is never put it alive, but the compromise need to be done. Yeah? But like I mentioned, it's really hard to install the new locations for bins, for not just for the glass, for all kinds of municipal waste. I could say that in the next few years, we try to implement the add containers for clothes, for VAV equipment, and for vegetable oils. And of course, we need to add it also for glass containers inside of this. So we actually try to reorganize our ecological sites, because now in these ecological sites, we don't need anymore for this plastic packaging, because everybody has these containers, like door-to-door collection concept. So we try to reorganize this ecological site with new containers for new waste. And it's really hard, because we need to spread a little bit the place we need for these ecological sites. And of course, we already know that we couldn't find 2,700 locations for this. Yeah, but I think that step by step, yeah, you need a little bit time, you need some patience, and find the guys in the municipality who want to help. Yeah, to you. Yeah. So I think so that this is a solution. Yeah.
Yeah. And in Germany, you're working on national level with DSD, Uli. How much influence, let's say, do you have on the choices made by municipalities to go for certain types of collection systems? How does that work in Germany?
Yeah, very low influence. The municipalities negotiate with the green dot systems. At the moment, we have something like 10 green dot systems, and depending on their market share, they negotiate with the various municipalities. And afterwards, the green dot systems have some contracts with the collectors for 3 years, and there everything is fixed.
Okay, so you can try and develop a proposal, try and communicate the pros and cons of each system, but in the end, you're not really in the decision-making seat.
Correct.
Okay. I'd like to come back to this question around communication to citizens. We've established that this is really, really important, but Lydia also mentioned the idea of punitive elements or sanctions. I'd like to get a feel as to different policy measures that have been put in place to encourage citizens or force citizens to collect a glass separately, and your feedback on that, whether it's awareness raising campaigns or pay as you throw schemes, financial incentives. Maybe Joze, in Ljubljana, do you have any specific measures or instruments that you've used?
We actually have the system, like we say, pay as you throw system. So the citizens, they need to pay also just for the bins for residual waste. So we charge them by the volume of containers and how many times he empties per one period, let's say per month. In the underground containers, we also have some kind of measurement system. So we count how many times they put his waste in for the residual waste and organic waste. But they have free access for packaging, of course. But the cost for collection and handle with this waste is actually all including in this green bin for which we use it for residual waste. I can mention that we have, let's say, the system for EPR scheme in Slovenia. It's slightly different I think in some other part of the Europe, because the EPR scheme is just responsible for the material that municipal company need to collect. Yeah, and then from that point of view, they have obligation to take care for the next steps, for separation, for ending, and so on and so on. And right now we have 6 companies inside of this EPR scheme, and of course we have a little bit problems. And we actually the government working hard to put alive the new regulation that I think that we needed in our area. And I hope that in the future, we also try to collaborate harder with this EPR scheme, because right now I think that let's say we have some kind of problem, because we don't look so much about the purity of material we collect, but everybody knows that we need it to do this already, not next year, but 5 years ago. And we don't have any mechanism to force anybody to get some more purity, because so EPR scheme couldn't say no, some municipal company who collect, you need to have clearer material or more pure material to collect, and I think that we need to change this system, and I think that in the next year they will be done. Otherwise, I think that for the citizens, I think that just communication is very important, because if we punish them somehow, I don't believe in this way. So communication, awareness, we already talk a lot about circularity, sustainability, and so on. And I think that the citizens more and more understand the topics. We try to introduce them, and I think that also they will collaborate in the massive way. I believe this.
Like Gerko mentioned in the keynote, it's more about the value proposition. Lydia, in Madrid, then. So can you tell us a little bit about these measures that you take towards citizens to encourage? And I think also the point made by Joze, that do they really encourage also the purity, the quality of the collected material? Do they just encourage a greater amount of material being collected?
Well, the measures we have been talk about, most of them, awareness campaigns, good service, increase of the amount of containers, make it easy for the user to throw the different materials. We have some improper material in our waste separation, but in glass is not a main problem. It's worse in other materials as packaging, metal and plastic packaging. In glass, our containers have a hole with the shape of perhaps 20 centimeters. So it's difficult to insert a bag with other waste. Of course, there are improvers, but it's not a big amount. So that problem we don't have. We only collect one type of glass. We don't separate colors. So it's all together. We have some problems with other kind of glass from the windows or things like that, but it's difficult to insert inside the container. So I think this solution avoids a lot of impropers. We don't have a tax, only for commerce, not for household, but the new legislation that is now in the Congress is going to establish a task for all the municipalities in a 2 years period. So we have to work on that scenario. And I think it's going.
Sorry, maybe also a word then on the HoReCa sector, because in Madrid you will have a lot of HoReCa outlets. How do they deal with these small openings in the bottle banks where they have a lot of material to put in?
Yeah. We have the door-to-door system. So some of the areas have this system which is easy for them because they have a bigger container, and also in some of our containers we have what we call bakery system, who opens with a key a bigger door, so you can throw a big amount of glass only for the HoReCa sector.
Okay, so an adapted system for HoReCa. In Germany, Uli, I understand that a lot of the glass in the HoReCa sector will be in refillable glass, or at least some of that glass will be in refillable glass. Do you feel that has an effect on the total amount of waste generated in cities and makes it maybe easier in Germany to manage the glass waste management system, because a lot of that is in refillable?
It might be that it is easier, but in Germany, the HoReCa volume is very low. I would say it's something like 5% of the total collected volume, because, you know, we used to drink in restaurants and so on, maybe wine out of bottles, but beer and other drinks are draft. And so it's only 5%, and but we struggled again a little bit with the quality from HoReCa. We get a lot of we call it CSP, that is ceramics, stones, and porcelain, and but it's only a very low volume in total, so we can live with that at the moment. It's a totally different behavior in comparison to the southern countries like Spain, Portugal, Italy, and so on.
And I have a question in the audience. Maybe that's one for you, Uli, because of the situation in Germany. Talking about the deposit return scheme to be introduced in the UK and in Scotland. You know, will this be transformation for glass recovery? Does that also then have an effect in Germany? The fact that you have some glass that is part of the deposit return scheme, does that have an effect? Do you think a positive effect for big cities?
Might be. We had a big influence years ago when we started with the deposit system. In good years, let me say it this way, we collected something like 3.2 million tons of glass. And when we went to the deposit system for various packaging, we went down today 1.9 million tons. So there you can see that it has a big effect. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I'd like to speak a little bit about the partnerships between cities and the rest of the glass collection and recycling value chain. I mean, we've talked about this issue around purity, and that's obviously the interest of the value chain, is to have access to material that can actually be effectively recycled into a new glass bottle. Lydia, from your perspective, at the very, very starting point where you're managing collection, do you feel you have a good understanding of the value chain requirements on the material that you need to collect? Or do you feel that there's room for improvement in that dialogue between the value chain?
Our main partner, the only EPR scheme that we have in Spain is with Ecovidrio. Is the partner with the municipality speak in the chain of value. So yes, we have the same objectives, which is increase the amount of glass and increase the quality. I think it's room for improve. Probably yes, it is. But we are working in the same line. We share objectives. And we think we are both quite satisfied about the result of our action together.
Okay. And in Ljubljana, you were talking about the EPR scheme and that you can maybe improve, especially on quality. How do you get that information? And do you know where the material is recycled in the end? Because that might not actually happen in Slovenia. Maybe that happens in Italy, or I don't know, in Croatia or in other countries around Slovenia.
Yes, that's correct. It's the recycled happened actually in Austria, Italy, and Croatia. Just a small amount of material we recycled in Slovenia for this glass recycled, because we collect all this mixed glass. Yeah, it's quite different, like in German. But I think that it's important what the producers bring in the market. I think that if the producers bring in the market the right packaging, which is recyclable, which is usable for this stuff, I think that also the system for collection, they will adapt it to them. Yeah. So I also think that this deposit return scheme will help to increase the amount of collect good quality materials. I think especially the glass, I think so, maybe even better than plastic on other material. That's my opinion. but because when we collect the material, the glass inside is our system, it's not possible to rewash this bottle and put it back to refill. This is, I think, why it's really important, this deposit scheme, because or returnable, some kind of returnable scheme. We already have this also in Slovenia. So some producers for the water, sparkling water, and also for other, they fill the drink in the glass bottle. They have the system that if the citizens bring back in the store, they give some money back, or they can use it to buy another goods. So I also read somewhere that, let's say, we in Ljubljana we collect yearly 6,800 tons of this glass, and I just read today that some company who are selling some let's say merchants, they actually yearly collect 1,800 tons of glass in this returnable scheme. So I think it's really important also. So it's nothing wrong if we collect in some area in the different system. What is there is important. Maybe we heard in the very beginning of these panels that we need to know what kind of material we bring in some area, and it's important how we collect to go into recycle stream.
Yeah, I think the design issue is very important, and especially when considering that in the context of a big city where there's a big consumption. Obviously, that will have an extra weight on the collection and recycling scheme. And you talk about the fact that recycling can also coexist with refilling, which is also another option that can help prevent waste being generated. Uli, in Germany, obviously, there's a lot of glass manufacturing happening locally, so you can really close the glass loop in Germany with the glass collected in Germany. Do you feel that helps to get the message across to municipalities on quality, or do you think there's still a lot of work to do so that municipalities understand the kind of collection system that's required to improve on the quality of the material?
Absolutely. Even in Germany, we have different ways of collection. We have bottle bank collection, 95%, something like this. We have collection in plastic bags. We have collection in buckets, and all these different ways lead to a certain good or bad quality, whatever it is. But as Jose said already, and there's a very important point, is how the packaging, the glass packaging, is combined with the label, the kind of closure, and all these things. We have to make it convenient and clear for the consumer as well, that he knows what to do with it, that he knows that the closure belongs into the same bottle bank and not just into the environment. All these things where municipalities have the problem with, and so it's the loop only works if everybody helps, and not just the municipality or just the recycler or just the collector, and therefore we need a wide understanding, and we need to talk to each other to understand where are the problems of the municipality and the problems of quality. And we need the retailers as well. We need the fillers, and that's what Close the Glass Loop now really tries to do, and it's perfect.
Yeah, and so on that note, as we have to close this panel discussion, I feel that we've talked a lot about the consumer and that important role of the consumer, which is maybe particularly challenging in big cities, and we can still address that by providing the best possible collection system, the most convenient, the best located collection system possible. In a last statement, I'd like you to think about how you want to try and reach this 90% goal that we have in Close the Glass Loop, 90% glass collection for recycling by 2030 in your different local contexts. So really your key priority for the future on glass collection and recycling. Lydia, you can go first.
I think we have to see all the system like a whole. I think that's important for us. Not only talking about one fraction, we have to see the system as a thing whole, as a complete system. So we have a lot of hope with with the approval of the new law and the new objectives that are the new goals that are very exigent. But I think we have to work hard to improve the investments and improve the service to offer the best service to the user. I think the municipality has to offer that, a good service, so there would be no excuses to not separate at home.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much, Lydia, and good luck for increasing glass collection in Madrid. Joze, your key priority, 30 seconds.
Magic stick, huh? I think that we need to take care for this priority. Yeah? If you don't need packaging, don't use it. Yeah, then refill the store without the packaging. I know that this is some kind of utopia, yeah? But if the cities take care of this and they take care for the place for this kind of markets, that we don't need to use packaging, I think this is really important to start it. And then awareness. So the citizens must to know why they separated and what they need to do with the material they don't need it anymore. It's not important is this glass or something else.
Okay, perfect. Providing a great service and communicating to citizens. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Joze. Good luck in Ljubljana to continue collecting glass. And Uli, your 30-second priority for Germany.
We have to understand that we are sitting in the same boat. That means we have to talk to all players, as I said already, and don't see the others as enemies. You know, we have to work together, and therefore we have to talk. We have to discuss. We have to meet. We have to go into recycling plants to understand their problems. We have to go into the cities. All these things we have to do much more public relation. But I fear that it is almost too late to achieve 90% in a very short time. This usually takes a generation to teach everybody in the schools and in the kindergartens. And we have to talk, as I said already, to fillers, to the ones who put or to stick the label on the bottle and don't know what they really start with that problem. You know, we have to talk.
Well, let's hope we can prove you wrong and speed up this process so that we reach the goal in 2030. Thanks so much, Uli, and to the three of you for having shared your insights in this panel. I think it was really interesting and really part of the work of Close the Glass Loop to better understand cities. So thank you so much for having taken part. And now we move to our last part, which is the news update that you're waiting for. And I'm joined by Vanessa Chenot, Senior Product Policy Manager at FEVE, the European Container Glass Federation, and she will be giving us the news update and revealing the latest recycling rate for glass. Welcome, Vanessa.
Thank you very much, Jean-Paul, and good afternoon, everyone. Well, before we disclose the latest recycling figures that you are all expecting, I would like to tell you a little bit about the municipality study that we just released. So as you may know, municipalities are one of the key actors of the glass recycling value chain, being at the closest point to the consumer and the point where consumers dispose of their waste, and are also a key player for the collection of glass packaging, being in charge of municipal waste management. So Close the Glass Loop just released a study that was carried out by our partner, ACR Plus, that outlines the perspective and roles of local authorities in the glass recycling value chain. So I really encourage you to have a look at this study, which provides a very good overview of the framework conditions. So that is the policies, the regulation, and the economic instruments that are in place in 7 European countries, and also on the waste collection organization for glass packaging in those countries. So we covered 7 countries: the UK, France, Italy, Spain, Germany, Poland, and Portugal, which together account for more than 80% of the total amount of non-recycled glass in 2017. So this study also used data that were gathered in the context of the collectors project. And it provides an overview and a comparison of how different local glass packaging waste collection systems operate across Europe. And the idea was to highlight effective instruments, as well as really trying to better understand the contextual parameters that seem to impact the generation of glass packaging waste and the performance of those collection systems. So the study is not only based on collection of information and data, but also on interviews of local municipalities and glass collection and recycling experts. So this study that, again, you can find on our website, closetheglassloop.eu, draws a number of interesting conclusions. Well, first of all, it highlights the very high diversity of local approaches for glass packaging waste collection at municipal level. But also that the framework conditions play a significant role to support the implementation of effective local waste collection systems. So these framework conditions are the legal and economic incentives, in particular, the guidelines and guidance that is directed to local authorities, but also the close collaboration between EPR organizations and local authorities is essential. When it comes to the practical organization of waste collection, bottle banks and source separation are the main systems across Europe, while commingling is still used in countries such as the UK and Italy. So door-to-door collection is sometimes used in parallel with bottle banks, or as the main collection mode, especially in urban contexts, and when other packaging waste are also collected door-to-door. So when it comes to local performances, it's interesting to note that high performances can be reached by bottle banks and door-to-door systems, but these door-to-door systems appear to be more expensive and lead to a lower glass quality. Also interesting is that incentives seems to be very important to reach very high performances. So for example, pay-as-you-throw systems or sorting obligations that are enforced by controls. And finally, the local context plays an important role for glass packaging collection. So especially tourism, which leads to a significantly higher generation and the density of population, which makes it more challenging to set an extensive network of bottle banks. So these conclusions confirm that waste management is complex, and there is a need to acknowledge the diversity of factors that influence collection of glass packaging. Now the Close the Glass Loop partners will further investigate these findings to discuss and design tailored solutions for specific situations. And we've built a municipalities action plan that will guide us in the months and the years to come. But that looks very promising. So now the moment that you are all expecting. In the past months, Close the Glass Loop has gathered the latest collection for recycling rates in European countries for the year 2019. But before we disclose these new figures, just a quick recap on the current situation. So if you remember, the 2018 figures show that on average 76% of glass packaging put on the market was collected for recycling, with a diversity of situations across Europe. And our collective ambition with Close the Glass Loop is to achieve a collection target of 90% by 2030, and to ensure that this is recycled into the container glass production loop. So the key question for us really is, are we on track to reach our 90% collection for recycling rate by 2030? And the answer is yes. Our new figures show that the EU 28 average collection for recycling rate for glass packaging grew to the record rate of 78% in 2019. So that represents a growth of 2 percentage points compared to 2018 performance. And that shows that the glass packaging value chain is delivering on its circular economy ambition. So you can see on this map the results per country. You can also find all the figures and the evolution year on year on our website. But I just wanted to make a few remarks on those data. First, the amount of glass packaging that was placed on the market has grown between 2018 and 2019. But the amount of glass packaging that was collected has grown even faster by almost 6%. When it comes to performance, the top 10 collectors of 2018 continue to be at the top, but it's really worth mentioning the 2% point increase in Italy and in Denmark. And for other countries, the rate significantly increased in Czech Republic, in Bulgaria, in Slovakia, in Poland, Portugal, and Croatia, and to a lesser extent in Spain. Also, the UK sees a strong increase of its recycling rate from 78.51% to 72.47%. And it's important to note that in the UK, we don't have a collection for recycling rate. So this rate is the real recycling rate. In the countries that declined, we have Estonia, Cyprus, Greece, and Hungary. But in most of these countries, the market saw a considerable increase in terms of packaging placed on the market, which can be an explanation. And finally, Turkey dropped to 14.10%, but this rate does not account for the whole of the Turkish market and was corrected so that it doesn't include flat glass recycling, which had been included in previous figures. So this record high glass collection for recycling rate of 78% confirms that our ambitious Close the Glass Loop targets can be achieved, provided that we promote close cooperation between all players in the value chain, and we continue to share best practices, be it on innovative and tailored collection models, high quality sorting and recycling, communication campaigns for consumers, etc., etc. And for us as Close the Glass Loop, these rates are very important to monitor progress towards a full circular economy. So monitor progress towards our 90% collection for recycling rate objective, but also assess progress towards the EU real recycling targets of 75% by 2030. Sorry. So these rates are important to assess progress, but of course also to inform decision and to drive action. That's really the objective of Close the Glass Loop. And for that, we really need to improve data and statistics. And that's what we want to help do with Close the Glass Loop. via exchanges of best practices and a dedicated task force on statistics that is really looking into the nitty-gritty details of recycling data. One thing that I wanted to mention, and which is very important, is that Close the Glass Loop and the data that we disclose today focus on the collection for recycling rate, while the EU targets are moving away from collection to real recycling. So we are currently in a sort of transition phase, and the Eurostat data that you can find online are a mix of collection rates and real recycling rates. So what we are really trying to do with those figures is to stick as much as possible to the collection rate. And that's why our figures may be different to the Eurostat data for some countries. But of course, the change in the calculation methodology is very important. And our task force is also trying to understand the impact of this shift from collection for recycling to real recycling. So on this very positive news, I would like to thank you for your attention, our national contact points for their support in consolidating this data, and all our partners for very fruitful discussions on this important statistics topic. So thank you very much to all.
Well, thanks to you, Vanessa, also for this very comprehensive overview of the new glass collection for recycling rates, looking at the 2019 data, and also on the municipality study that links up nicely with the discussion that we had previously. So moving forwards, just as a kind of a headline, what would be for you the sort of top 2 or 3 priorities for Close the Glass Loop to continue supporting national partners and member states in the EU to close those remaining gaps towards the 90%?
So the first priority is municipalities. Really, we want to work closely with municipalities. We are lucky enough to have 3 associations in our partnership representing them: ACA Plus, Eurocities, and Municipal Waste Europe. And we now have an action plan that is partly based on the findings of our study. And the idea is really to drive action, to build a relationship with municipalities, and to focus in particular on specific situations. So, for example, well, dense areas. We had the debate on this topic. Touristic areas as well, and also the HoReCa sector. So hotels, restaurants, and cafes are really a major point of consumption for glass, for products packed in glass. And we know that there is a potential to do better when it comes to collection of glass packaging in this sector. So the HoReCa channel would be the second priority. And we also have an action plan for this sector. We also have a new partner, HOTREC, representing the hospitality sector on board in Close the Glass Loop. So that will also be a key priority to better understand the challenges in this sector, and also try to see how we can together find solutions that are really tailored to the needs of these specific waste generators, in a sense.
Okay, that's a lot of work to be done. But thanks a lot, Vanessa, for having shared this news update with us on Close the Glass Loop.
Thank you very much.
Still a long way to go, as Uli said in the panel. Let's prove him wrong. Let's make this generation speed up its action on glass collection for recycling, and hopefully Close the Glass Loop can help with that. We will continue with our 90 Minutes to Close the Loop episodes. The next one is in January 2022, 27th of January, and here we'll be talking about something a little bit more technical, very specific to glass. It's the end of waste criteria. What's the story there, and how has it helped the circular economy for glass packaging? So I hope to see you there. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and see you soon. Bye bye.